Hello everyone! This week I will be introducing you to two stories from Greek mythology. There are a number of modern stories that are loosely based off of this first one. This is the story of Pygmalion. The island of Cyprus had long worshipped Aphrodite, since that is the first land that she stepped on after being born out of sea foam. Most people from Cyprus were known to love love. There was one, however, who felt that he did not have time to fall in love, that art was enough for him. That was the famous and talented sculptor Pygmalion. Aphrodite wasn't exactly pleased with the idea of young Pygmalion wasting his life not loving anyone. And so, the next time that the sculptor picked up his hammer and chisel, the goddess sent a little divine inspiration his way. As Pygmalion began to work on his next commission, a great general of Cyprus, he found that the marble beneath his hands began to take on a distinctly feminine form. The more he tried to salvage the work, the more it began to resemble a young woman. When he had finished, he took a step back to admire what was surely his greatest masterpiece. The sculpted woman was perfect in every way, and Pygmalion instantly fell in love with her. He named her Galatea. She's at least the third Galatea to appear in stories from Greek mythology. Pygmalion now reached out a hand to touch the lovely Galatea, who looked so alive, only to find cold marble beneath his fingers. He was in turmoil. Pygmalion now had a problem. He was head over heels in love with this marble creation of his, completely obsessed with her to the point that he couldn't eat, he couldn't sleep, and most importantly, he couldn't carve more sculptures. If he couldn't fix his problems soon, his reputation would be ruined, and he wouldn't be making any more money. But that didn't stop his love. He bought Galatea dresses, jewelry, and even a velvet couch that he lay her down upon. Pygmalion even sang songs to her and wrote her poetry. The sculptor was in luck, however. The time had come for the annual festival to Aphrodite, when the people of Cyprus would make requests of the goddess, and if she was feeling especially kind, she would grant those requests. Pygmalion gave Galatea a kiss on the cheek, and he left to visit the love goddess's temple. Pygmalion made his way to kneel before the massive statue of Aphrodite. The sculptor was suddenly shy of his true request, with so many other people around, and so he amended his prayer. "O great Aphrodite, please grant the wish of this poor artist who begs you to provide him with a real living girl, just like the one he carved from marble. If you do this, O great and powerful goddess, I will devote the remainder of my life and art to the services and praise of love." Aphrodite had listened to Pygmalion's prayer and knew what the sculptor truly wanted. The flame of the candles before Pygmalion flared brightly as the goddess acknowledged the request. Understanding that his wish was to be granted, Pygmalion ran home and began pressing kisses to Galatea's cheeks, forehead, and lips. As he kissed her, he felt the cold, hard marble change into soft, warm skin. As Galatea takes her first breath of air, Pygmalion praises the goddess who granted him his wish. "O Aphrodite, greatest of all the gods, I thank you and pledge to serve you always." Pygmalion and Galatea are married and spend the rest of their happy lives together. So that's the end of the story for Pygmalion and Galatea. Next, let me introduce you to a story that you may already be familiar with. This is the story of King Midas. Phrygia was a simple kingdom, neither wealthy nor poor, neither beautiful nor bland. It just simply was. And King Midas was perfectly suited to his kingdom. He loved his wife and daughter and his rose garden, all in equal measures. One morning, while Midas was tending his garden, he discovered an old man whose name was Cyllenus sleeping beneath one of the rose bushes. Midas, being a kind soul, offered the man a hot meal, a bath, and warm bed in which to sleep. He stayed with the king for 10 days and 10 nights. Cyllenus was very moved by the kind gesture and promised that the king's generosity would be repaid in kind, since Cyllenus was best friends with Dionysus, the god of wine and parties. Midas was allowed to make any request of Dionysus. So many wishes flashed before Midas's eyes, but the one he landed on would benefit not just himself, but his entire kingdom as well. He knew that more money, more gold, would allow him to invest in his kingdom and make it really amazing and something to behold in the world. He asked for the power to change anything he touches into gold. Dionysus promised to grant that wish by morning, with a rather smug grin. and that should have been Midas's sign that things were not going to go well at all. Midas awoke in the morning and went straight to his garden like any other day. He brushed his fingers against a rose and was amazed as it changed from red to gold. With glee, Midas rushed around the garden, touching every single rose and even a couple of butterflies where they had landed on a flower. When he finished, he looked out at his glimmering golden garden and realized a few very important things. The garden no longer felt alive. The only movement was as the wind blew the golden roses against one another, making a dull, clanging noise. A butterfly fell to the ground with a thud. He also noticed that the fragrant perfume of the roses were gone, replaced with an odd, metallic scent. He thought to himself. Never mind that, I'll just be careful with what I touch in the future. With that, he made his way inside to have some breakfast. As soon as he sat down, the chair turned to gold, and then the fork that he picked up, and then the piece of egg that he had put into his mouth. He spat out the golden egg, gagging. He reached for a cup which turned to gold, as did the water inside it. As Midas was beginning to realize his mistake, his wife, carrying their young daughter, approached him, before he had time to stop her. Both mother and child turned to gold in his embrace. The king rushed to his bedroom before anyone could see him cry. As he threw himself on his bed, it turned to gold. He could feel the headache coming on as his head slammed into the hard, golden pillow. The tears streaming down his face turned to gold as well and made little plinking sounds as they fell onto the golden blankets. Oh, woe is me! Whatever will I do? As the king drifted off to sleep, Dionysus appeared in his dreams. Foolish mortal, it is only because Cyllenus is so fond of you that I show you mercy. In the morning, go to the river Pactolus and wash away the golden touch. Anything you wash in those waters will also have the gold washed away. At dawn, Midas rushed to the river and washed himself and his golden family. The Pactolus River became rich with electrum, a natural alloy of gold and silver. Overjoyed, they returned home. Midas learned that he had to be careful about what he asked for from the gods. Unfortunately, this king will have other misfortunes befall him due to gods twisting his words. But that is a story for another time. Now that's not the end of the story for King Midas. He does continue to get himself in a bit of trouble with various other gods. But that's where we'll leave him for now. Next week, join me as we begin learning stories from the Age of Heroes.